taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This is Augmented Reality,
Presented by the Triple S League.
Boy, is it ever Tuesday. Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. It's November 21st, 2018, which is, of course, a Wednesday, but we have had some kind of a local temporal disturbance going on that has forced us to broadcast into the future. So, hello to all you Wednesday listeners of the show, which is usually happening on Tuesday. My name is Ash, and I'm here as always with the Cybsidian. And it's good to be back in the hot seat after a week off. Hope my voice holds out.
Which got you sick. I have to just point that out.
Yes, because this is not obvious to all the listeners at this point. But anyway, doing pretty well. Glad to be back. And we are glad to be jumping back into the podcast here with some exciting gaming news. Hello, everybody who's already talking in the chat. If you're listening live this morning, not this morning. Why do I keep saying that? Today, if you're listening live, please say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And don't forget to slam that like button to tell us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. And if you're listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, SoundCloud or iTunes or wherever else it populates to, we're glad you're here as well. But if you want to get the latest new info and news sooner, we encourage you to hit the link in the description to subscribe to the Triple S League YouTube channel. So hello to Greek Strawberry. You know, one of the best things in the world, strawberries with Greek yogurt. That's what that name made me think of. Anyway, we had the early bird, Greek Strawberry, in the chat this morning. Overlord 580, Notional, HTK Gaming. Good to see you back as well. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while. Welcome to, glad you were able to catch the live show. Whisper 803, Alex. Notional's pointing out that Steam is having a sale. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is very cheap. And
the game is good. I don't understand. The game was like, and this is one of the things that one of my issues with the complaints about Fallout 76 is that like they followed that to the letter for the formula. They absolutely masterfully followed that in exactly how, you know, one game should go from one to the next, and it didn't bomb because it's not bad. It bombed because people were bored of that formula. So it's like devs are being punished for trying something different, and they're punished for keeping things the same. So it's like you can't make anybody happy. It's like, my God, that. Well,
if there was a formula for knowing what would be a runaway success, we'd all be millionaires. But unfortunately, yeah, sometimes there are risks that need to be taken, and yeah, there's a risk on it. There's a risk of keeping it too similar. There's a risk of innovating too much. But this is where I think that the indie game community is really a really important part of the gaming industry at the as a whole, because they're able to take more risks and then see what works, what doesn't work, and with less money and time on the line. So. Yeah, we're big supporters of indie games here, but yeah, I did enjoy Shadow of the Tomb Raider. But yeah, if you want to play that, if you've played the previous games in the trilogy and enjoyed them, you'll probably enjoy Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So it's half price right now. All right, we've got some. We're going to be talking about Fallout 76 and mods and how that's all. You know what's going on in that whole arena with Fallout 76. We've got some rumors that we're going to be discussing about the new PlayStation and Xbox, and what the release timelines are looking for that, what information we know thus far. I don't know how deep we can go with that, but we've got some information Cybs dug up for us. But first we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2077 and the role that hacking plays in that game, and it's been a while since we've been able to have a good discussion about Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay, so I'm excited for that. But first, I just wanted to mention something that I thought about while I was on vacation. We talked, I believe, last time we've mentioned previously on the podcast about how there is actually an NPC in Fallout 76, a human NPC known as the Mysterious Stranger, and now there's also the Mysterious Savior. So the mysterious stranger, of course, is is nothing new to the Fallout series. He's this guy that will, if you have a high enough luck score and you pick this perk, he'll sometimes show up when you're using VATS and help you out in combat. But we were told early on that there was going to be no human NPCs in Fallout 76, and yet you've got the mysterious stranger. But then I had this funny thought: what if he's actually not an NPC? What if there's somebody at Bethesda who's been hired to play the mysterious stranger, and he just gets ported into various servers all over the place to help you out with combat? I don't know. Was that funnier in my head? Maybe it was.
I think it was funnier in your head. One of the things that was funny that I noticed about the mysterious stranger is like, if you watch him from time to time, it's really hilarious. He like phases in this one case. He phased in, and it was the last enemy, like the very last one. And he just like, brings his hand up and like, boom, guy's head explodes, and then he like put his hands down and just casually like just keeps walking really, really like super slowly and phases out of existence again. I was like, that's kind of funny.
He's a dimension hopper.
Kind of weird.
He's like from some alien dimension or something.
Anyways, so we have a Fallout 76 review coming. We decided to not necessarily talk about it on the podcast because it's we've been talking about it a lot lately, and we're going to talk about 76 again today in a little bit, but we're not going to give our official review for it. What we're going to do is we're going to do that in a separate video, and we have to script it because there's a lot of.
It's very volatile.
You have to script and edit it because
Yeah.
I'm going to say a lot of things that some people aren't going to like, and then I'm going to say a bunch of other things that a bunch of other people aren't going to like. So it's going to be like no pleasing anybody.
Possible, yeah.
But I'm going to try to be as clear and concise as I possibly can, and with that review coming up. And we will, of course, continue making content because I'll spoil it now. The big takeaway is that I'm still playing the game. And I have met a lot of people while playing the game that are enjoying playing the game. So that's the biggest takeaway. Aside from the fact that it's so buggy, it's so many issues. Last night we did our first nuke launch, and we fought our first Scourgeback Queen, which was a very fun fight, pretty difficult. It was cool because I plopped down my base in the middle of the fight. I called up my base, started building things. Then all these players that were in all different teams, about 20 of us, like suddenly ran to the base, and like people hopped out of their power armor to like quickly like repair things and grab supplies from the stash box, and people started like throwing up extra turrets and stuff like that. It was honest to God a lot of fun. We didn't kill it. We got really close. We got as close as I've seen so far. So far, I haven't heard anybody say that they've killed the queen yet. We got the queen down to about 20% before the timer ran out. But a lot of people had run out of ammo. A lot of people were not like super prepared. I think the average level group was probably like 30-ish between everybody that showed up. So it was a handful of 50 pluses, and then there was a fair number of 20s and 30s. But like if you didn't have power armor and you touched the nuke cloud, you were pretty much dead instantly. There was some bugs and stuff like that, but it was cool. It was fun, and if that is a fight I get to do, a bunch more times, it's cool because I'm okay with that. And then if in about 6 months they added a new boss, then that is also good. So, as far as like the end game goes, I can say that it's pretty fun. It's pretty engaging. There's really super rare recipes that you only get from certain things. So there's a little bit of like this case of what am I going to get when I take down this like legendary creature, and yeah, so it's pretty cool. I did some high level crafting with some of the mats. I tried to record it and OBS failed, and then I tried to record it on Shadowplay and Shadowplay failed. So I don't have any footage of it, unfortunately. So that was really annoying. I was really kind of miffed about that, and I couldn't even grab screen grabs because it was just it was so chaotic, and we were having a hard time staying alive as a group. Like there were lots of people running around, like trying to bring up others. So, anyways, like I said, review is coming. We'll talk a little bit more about 76 later on, but it's
Yeah.
it's interesting, and it's holding my attention for now at least. So we'll keep that there. The There was going to be something else I was going to mention, but I totally forgot it. So we'll just move on. I'm in a yes. I'm in a ton of pain. I've been going through a really rough patch physically. I've gotten I have a pretty strange and somewhat weird condition that they still don't know exactly what it is. Essentially, my body's like eating itself, which is great. It's great for weight loss. I've lost over 40 pounds in a month. But it's also not great for health long term. So thank you for everybody who's been sending me warm regards again. And something that's been keeping me really happy and really going on is the fact that we just crossed 21K subs and that we're pushing real close to 10 million views. So thank you guys so much. It honestly means a lot, and it means a lot when I see tons of likes, and it means a lot when I see lots of people listening. So thank you for that, because that's keeping me going right now. Aside from that, everything's looking up, so that's good. So yeah, so I'm not in as bad of a position as I could be if things were a little on the worse end. But anyways, so moving on to but I did want to say thank you for that. So thanks for all that. Now, as far as Cyberpunk goes, so it's been a little dry. It's been a kind of a hot news week here in the last few weeks. So, like we said, information is going to come slowly. It's going to start to pick up at the end of November, which we got in the last couple days here. I'm expecting one or two other interviews and some stuff to come out here. Just again, this is slow drops of information. They sit back. What the strategy is, when I spoke to a certain someone again, the strategy is that they look at the information, they look at the questions that are being asked, and then every once in a while, when they decide that they need to stir the news pot a little bit, they look at all of the questions that have been asked recently on the Twitter feed, and they directly respond to one of them with a substantial piece of information. And so if you want your questions answered, if you want to ask your questions that you have about what the game and what's going on, every week that there hasn't really been a lot of information, start sending them questions. And start engaging with them on Twitter, start engaging with them on some of the other social media. And typically what you will get, because we've noticed this has been, they've answered through Facebook and they've answered through Twitter a couple of times now, mostly through Twitter, but they've also done some Facebook stuff. And what this shows is that they're listening and that they're wanting to participate. And this is a plan to get more participation from the players and from the community, is that this is their strategy. Every time that they've decided that they need to stir the pot for information, we had a dry spell for about a week and a half, 2 weeks a little while ago, because it was Red Dead just came out. There was information was just everywhere constantly for video game news and information. So at some point, you have to be careful about how much data you put out there as the developers. But what they're doing is they're being very targeted. They're being very careful. Every time that they want information to get out, they're taking the opportunity to answer questions. So if you are in the mindset of desperately wanting to ask them questions, you wait a couple of days after the last information drop and you start sending them DMs. Don't send them repeated DMs, because it's a good way to get placed on an ignore list. But you send them a DM and you start engaging with them on social media, and you'll eventually there's a possibility that they will eventually answer a question, and hopefully it's yours. So that's how to kind of like approach their system. That's how they've been doing it. You can look back and you can confirm that this is like every time it gets a little slow, they either leak a question directly to, not leak, but they answer a question directly to one of the fans via DM who's been asking them, or via just the Twitter response that's been asking them. And if it gets enough attention, and if the news cycles at the right moment, then they go ahead and answer that. And they answer it in pretty clear ways. So Ash, read the latest response that we got. This was out this couple days ago, about hacking, and we'll go into a little bit of what's going on on the hacking front.
Reddit user B-Boy Merchant asked on Facebook, sent a DM to the official Cyberpunk 2077 account on Facebook, asking about how hacking works in the game, what kind of devices you can hack, what control you have, etc. And got a response. Net running, which is sort of the slang for hacking in Cyberpunk. Net running will be... This is the official response from Cyberpunk. Net running will definitely be an important part of the game, but I can't tell you much about it. Big surprise there. What I can say is that gameplay-wise, you'll be able to hack systems to help you during missions, open doors, distract enemies, etc. You'll also be able to gain knowledge that you will use to your advantage, locations of interesting places, and so on. And something that wasn't said there that we saw in the gameplay demo that was released is that you can actually hack people, and, so you can actually hack your enemies and hack their cyberware, that kind of a thing. I think it was like you were able to hack. What was it that happened in the gameplay demo that they hacked?
So she jumped on an enemy and hacked him, and was able to get some information out of it. So what this means for gameplay, and what I've been led to believe is the direction which they're going with this, is that hacking is going to be a special way to take down some enemies. You could essentially take down every enemy, apparently, but there's a bit of a cooldown for it at the moment. So if you could take down every enemy, you're going to find from certain enemies, some information will always come, and then from other enemies, information will come randomly, like a random drop, basically. And what that'll lead to is additional quests, or additional XP, or location of like some place that you want to go to get something cool. Like, for example, if you hack a boss, there's a good chance that you're either going to get some extra piece of information there, or you might be given the location of like a super rare weapon out in the open world. And once you have it, you can go. It's like Joey Bag of Donuts is, the enemy that you're fighting, and you kill him, and then you hack him, at some point in the fight, and he's got a location of a really awesome weapon, and you grab that weapon from the location that he has in his memory banks after you've killed him. It's like it's on the other side of town or something like that, and you've got to enter in a passcode to open this like hidden compartment, and then boom, there's this really sweet weapon. But you don't get that if you don't kill him or if you don't hack him in that way. So that's what I've been led to believe is some of the effects on immediate gameplay that has. So it's kind of a risk versus reward, because you have to get up close, and you have to get like literally right into them. And if you do that, you'll be rewarded with more and more stuff as the game goes on. So this is good, because this as far as we've seen, there's no pickpocketing or like loot stealing or some kind of mechanic like that. We haven't seen that kind of a mechanic in the game, but this kind of replaces that. So for those of us who like sneaky, stealthy takedowns, this might be a way to sneak around, take down enemies, melee, quick and quiet, and at the same time potentially get walk out with like a whole bunch of data and information. You can also hack other things in the game, such as some terminals and some other pieces of information that can give you more information. So, for example, you can maybe hack a terminal, get some information that you can then go into a conversation with, and use that information to barter out a peaceful negotiation, or to barter out a higher, blackmail somebody to give you a higher reward, or something like that. Like this is all ways that they can take this mechanic, add it to the game, and make it really, really cool. So this is really awesome. I'm so happy that this is a direction that they're moving in, because this is rewarding those of us who like to be sneaky. So I'm looking forward to this. I think this is a great option. I think that they're doing this really well, and that they're essentially promising this now, because they've kind of made this more or less official. So
Right. And of course, there will be a lot of the typical things like hacking your way through doors, maybe disarming enemy security systems, that kind of a thing. I'm wondering, is there also a combat use? Like, can you hack your enemy's cyberware so like their guns don't fire, or they can't talk to each other, that kind of a thing?
Well, yes, yeah, that was shown in the game. So
That's what I thought.
You can hack things, like you can hack like weapons and stuff like that at a distance. But as far as like hacking an actual enemy, like getting pulling the information out of them, that appears to be like a physical thing that you have to do.
You have to get up and close.
You have to jam that thing right into their brain and steal a bunch of information. So,
Cool, awesome.
to answer this question, because it kind of ties in, and that's, we don't have too much else on Cyberpunk aside from the fact that they're promising side quests. We talked about this a couple of days ago, and it wasn't ground shattering information. They're like, doing side quests does affect the main story kind of thing, which is like, well, good, because it wouldn't be a very good open world game if side quests didn't affect something to do with the story and the end result. It's like we kind of expect that as gamers. But the question here from Greek Strawberry, which again, you're making me want to have strawberries, but I ran out the other day. Is CD Projekt Red working on the next Witcher? We know that they're working on 2 titles right now, aside from Gwent and Cyberpunk 2077. They are working on another title. I have postulated that this other title is quite possibly the next Cyberpunk game. So there's going to be Cyberpunk 2077, then 2 years after that we'll get the next one, because they would do a short series or a trilogy or something like that, like they did with The Witcher. However, there are other people who are again, they haven't put out any information on this in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing been leaked that has any substance to it whatsoever. So no need to go over any of that stuff. It's just like, oh, I heard they were working on this. Well, I heard that they were working on this, and so there's a lot of people who are saying no, it's a third IP. It's not The Witcher or Cyberpunk. I've heard that it's the next Witcher game, which is more of an open world thing, and you're not playing as Geralt. You're playing as this new protagonist, or this custom made protagonist. Which is kind of cool, I guess. So yeah, like it's up in the air right now. They are working on 2 projects. Where they are at with that other project is probably not very far along, I have to say. A lot of people have said, "Oh yeah, they're like 3 years into it." Like, no, the information is just not there. The vast majority of the studio has been working on Cyberpunk since they finished and wrapped on Blood and Wine, and they ran into an issue when they were working on Cyberpunk 2077, and that was that years ago when they first announced that they were working on this, they split their company into 2 departments. One working on Witcher and the other working on Cyberpunk 2077. And what they've discovered is that doesn't work. That the way that they run and the way that they create games, they can't work effectively on 2 titles at the same time. And there was a lot of problems that was created by this. There were a lot of competing EPs, I guess you could say. Imagine this: you're the head of your department. You're the head of, say, I shouldn't actually name a department, because then people might draw something from that. You're in charge of the department of snuffly teddy bears at this company. You're the head of the department, and your job is to make the best snuffly teddy bears there is.
Your mother must be so proud.
Yes. The problem is that there's a duplicate position for the next game that your company is working on, and there is Joey Bag of Donuts. And Joey Bag of Donuts is also the head of snuffly teddy bears on the next project that's going on.
You've got a duplicate position created in the company.
So you're the head of your department. Your project wraps this beautiful thing called, The Witcher 3, Blood and Wine, expansion, basically. So you come into work the next day. Everything's great, and you're like, all right, I'm moving over to work on this new project as the head of Snuffly Teddy Bears. And you walk into the department, and Joey Bag of Donuts looks at you and says, I'm not giving you my position. You're going to have to become my number 4, because I already have a number 2 and a number 3, so you'll have to be number 4, and you know what? I should really talk to the boss, because I don't think you should be getting paid the same salary as me, because I am the head of this department. And your reaction to this is, did you just insult my mother? Because things escalate that quickly. So this is the process, without throwing anybody under the bus, without pointing out any stuff, because drama is not something that I especially like to focus on. That's some of the issues that happened. Now, people were not as dickish as that. Obviously, there was a lot more stuff. But what they discovered is that that doesn't work that way. And you might say, well, why don't they just move him over to the Department of Snuffly Teddy Bears for the next game that they're working on? Again, it's like they don't need that position at that moment. They need that position won't become available for another year or 2 into development. And they don't need the Snuffly Teddy Bear director until they get to that point. So what do they do with this person? Do they downgrade this person? Do they let the person go? Do they encourage a person to find work elsewhere? These are all huge issues that they ran into when they transitioned from Blood and Wine to full-on Witcher, to full-on Cyberpunk 2077 production. They ran into this as a massive problem, and it caused considerable issues at the company. And so the result in that has been that they've decided that this is one of the reasons why they started to bring on some other studios and buy out some other places, is that they want to take some of the work and put it over to a different company entirely. So that way you don't have, George walking into Joey Bag of Donuts' office and saying, I used to have your position on this other project, now get out. And then the two of them fighting. It's like, no, they're not doing that anymore. Now it's at their head studio, everybody's on one thing. Writers are a little bit different, and game engine is also a little bit different, but that's pretty much how they've decided to go forward with this, is that they're not doing two simultaneous, I can never say that word. They're not doing 2 projects at once in the same way that they tried to do 2077 and The Witcher 3, because what happened is Cyberpunk got delayed by a massive chunk of time. And they ended up having to scrap a lot of stuff that they were working on, and they've had to reboot a considerable amount of progress on the game itself. So, to answer your question after that very long example, no, they will not be working on 2 projects at the same pace, at the same rate again, unless they get essentially another major studio that they can move a ton of people over to. Both as a physical move and as a goal oriented move as well. So and they are doing that. It's just that the new studios that they've taken over is really, really tiny. And then the other studio that they have working on them, studio here in Canada, has also been put on to this task and is starting to work on this as well. But they're not full on ownership. They're just partnering up. So it's not a complete. I don't believe I've not heard that it's complete buyout. I could be wrong there, but I'm sure that they would have announced that because they took great pleasure in announcing that for the other Polish studio that they bought out. So in this case, I think they're just working with this studio. I think it's a partnership. I don't think it's a buyout. So
Right.
so I hope that answers your question.
No, if you're talking about like, yeah, so they won't have 2 games in full-on production. Now, it's possible they have another game in pre-production, but that's a different thing, right? Like,
Well,
might be
yes.
in the planning stages.
Pre-production. Yeah, I guess I should have clarified that. I assume that you knew I assume the audience knew the answer to that. So, pre-production is one thing. Full-on production is something completely different. For example, when you're writing for a video game, you can write the vast majority of the content of the video game. You can even go so far as writing side quests and responses, and you can even go so far as having your actors start to record these lines. Speaking of actors, do we have that clip we've been promising to play for a while?
I don't have it queued up.
Okay,
I don't
we
think you
really need to play that sometime soon. And my dog is going at it again. It's okay, dear. We love you. So we do have a clip from a certain actress doing a certain role that may or may not have some major thing to do with Cyberpunk 2077, who may have something to say about our particular YouTube channel. So yeah, we'll play that. We'll play that next time. Promising next time. So get it ready for next time. So, anyways, moving on. Back to the thing is so for the pre-production, you can do a ton of writing. You can do a ton of planning. You can do all of the theory crafting and the world building. I've done a lot of the theory crafting for games. So, like, you want to make sure that when you're sitting down to design weapons systems, for example. I'm designing a new weapon system utilizing, a high fantasy system. I want to take the time to plan out mathematically in advance how is small weapons going to affect damage on certain targets versus heavy weapons versus bladed weapons versus two-hand bladed weapons versus spell effects. And so you sit down and you craft the theory of the mechanics of how it works, how do the health pool systems work, how does health generation healing work, how does the armor mitigation work. And in a lot of games you have different things that affect things in different ways. You could do straight up basic numbers, you can do a far more complex system, and then you can start to, if you know the coding, you could start to put that into the coding to make it easier for the easier you make it for the system to run the calculations for combat, the easier you're going to have a time of making the computer handle other loads at the same time. So, you want to be careful in how you design the load system for the gameplay system, for the gameplay logic itself. And you can do a vast majority of that stuff before the game even hits the computer. So you can sit down, you can start crafting this stuff from the get-go, and then the developers add that into the game, and they kind of more or less stick with your goal. And of course they're going to fluctuate on one or two things at a time that they need to, right? So like if they discover that this mechanic is a little too strong, then they're going to they can flex those numbers down a little bit. But doing most of that work ahead of time, creating like the world, the locations, the overall character arcs, that kind of stuff, that can all be done way in advance. Like, and what we're going to see this with Bethesda's next game, Starfield, because Starfield, Todd's been talking about this game for like over a decade. Like, this game has been in the works. It was one of his first passion projects. They started working on the game and they abandoned it because they didn't have the technology at the time to make the world that he wanted to make. So this has been in the works for a really long time. This is Todd's baby. So expect a lot better writing when in comparison to, another settlement needs your help. Another settlement needs your help in Fallout 4. Expect really good writing. Expect really deep lore. Expect several mysteries to unveil very slowly throughout the course of the game, and at the end of the game not even be answered. Just a bunch of these big questions are sitting there. Expect that kind of stuff, because like I said, this has been Todd's baby for like almost 20 years or more, who knows. Like, he's been working on this for a really long time. So the pre-production, of course, that can be planned out years in advance. The story, the writing, the dialogue, the a whole bunch of other stuff. All of this stuff can be planned years and years and years in advance. Then once you get the engine and start putting it together, you just put it together. So that's that. And again, I hope I didn't bore everybody with that fairly long answer to that question.
Sorry, say what? I dozed off there.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So, what game are we talking? We're talking about Cyberpunk 2077, but we're just about to move on here. To talking about.
Well, we were talking about the next game.
What would the next game that Cyberpunk
CDPR.
that CDPR is working on? Anyway, you are listening to the Augmented Reality podcast. We love seeing everybody active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast today, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link to that in the description below, a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S fans about all the things we love to talk about and stay up to date about everything that we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join, and be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. All right, so we're going to move on now to talking about a few things regarding the upcoming console generation.
Yeah, so the next console generation. So we said a couple months ago that I'm like, basically we're going to see the next consoles hit like 2019, 2020. Most likely like late 2019 or quite possibly early 2020. And lo and behold, the information out this week is we're expecting the PS5 between November next year and March of 2020. Possibly a late 2020 release in the fall, but most likely we will see this between that time period. So this is huge news. They are not going to E3 next year, which again we heard some rumors of beforehand. They are not going to E3, which means that they are going to be doing their own bigger event a little bit after E3, in which they're going to be unveiling the PS4 and the PS5. They'll be unveiling the PS5 and they'll be doing a big event for that. This may follow with Microsoft doing the exact same thing, or Microsoft might take the opportunity to basically upstage and or to take over E3. Last year, they of course kind of took a step away from E3. They went and did their own thing, and they're across the street from where E3 was being held. They changed a bit. So the opportunity is now one of two options. They can either embrace E3 next year for Microsoft and use that to unveil their own console, or they can snub E3 again in 2019. So this is really interesting. Overall, I expect them to probably end up snubbing E3, is what currently I would say is probably going to happen. E3 right now has become a bloated mess. It has become a highly political, and by that I don't mean like general politics. I mean like there are people who are like, I'm sorry, but you can't get in here if you don't know the right people, and by knowing the right people, you have to be the right people. And I'm sorry, but you are not the right people. I'm the right person, and if you don't meet my highly list of qualifications of friends and bribes, then you're not getting in. We faced this
it was
in
a
the last
for us,
E3.
yeah.
It was ridiculous and disgusting, the amount of like I said, it's not politics. It's not like local politics or federal politics. It's the politics of do you know the right people? Like, here's the rule, sir. You can't bring in a camera device. Excuse me, that guy just walked in with a box of camera devices, and he wasn't even searched. Well, it's a dangerous world out there. We have to know what you're bringing in, and we don't know if you've hidden a weapon inside that camera that's the size of your cell phone. It's like, okay, what weapon am I going to hide inside this bloody cell phone? Something the size of a cell phone. Like, come on, this is ridiculous. And then and again, there goes X company that happens to have some tie-ins with you, just walking in without even being searched at all. Like, no security guy even looks at him. He just walks past the security people. And so this is why I suspect strongly that E3 will start kind of going down, because the people that are in charge of E3 that are making these horrendous, very selfish, very, very bad decisions as far as like accepting bribes and taking people's money and taking the gamers' money, they're still in charge. They were the ones who pushed that to let non-press people in and basically abuse them. I mean, that's if you're not an actual press person, you pay $1,000 for your ticket, you're still treated like trash, and you're still not allowed to film. You're still not allowed to ask questions. You're still not allowed to do stuff, even though you have the credentials that fit the press thing, but you're just not the particular press that they want asking particular questions.
Yeah, you're just
so
a dirty, lowly YouTuber that
or streamer or whatever.
Or
There was a lot of problems there. There were a lot of problems there. And the big companies tried to step in and tried to help, but they were blocked by the very people who were organizing the event. And this is what was going on. So I suspect strongly that, I know this has been a big segue from I suspect strongly that we will not see we won't see an effective E3 next year. I suspect that both Microsoft and Sony will be doing their own thing, and I suspect that the only one who will embrace E3 is probably Nintendo, because Nintendo has, they're going to embrace it because it's like, why not? It's like two parties have moved away from this massive event. Let's just take over the event completely. So, it's a strong possibility as well. So we'll see how this process is going forward. As far as the horsepower from the PS5, what we're hearing is that it's really strong. We have also heard some definite confirmation that they are doubling down on the VR, and that there's a good chance that the VR goggles will actually come with the base console. On top of that, we have also heard a rumor that they're working on gloves for the VR PlayStation, which is very interesting and very confusing, because that the last time that was tried, it did not go over too well. But if they've answered a lot of these problems, I mean, it could very well be. So we'll see how that goes. There's lots of stuff that they're working on, and I've heard some pretty interesting things as far as like the tech coming down the road. I've heard I have this one friend who's been working on physical response gloves, which is what I immediately thought, but I thought, no way, because this technology is so far outside the realm of what Sony has access to, or at least I think. But it might be interesting. These are gloves that when you grasp like an object in the game, your gloves will give you the feedback, and will, like, if you grab a pole, a weapon or a gun or something like that, the weapon you will feel what that thing feels like in the glove, which is a very fancy way that they handle basically this like shape forming material and stuff like this. Very interesting. Also totally outside the realms, but we're hearing tons of these rumors. So what I'm saying with this is, I'm not confirming any of these rumors, because they're all rumors at this point. Take it with a grain of salt, and don't jump on the fact that they're going to have this amazing technology. I suspect strongly that we'll see the Vive 2, that they are basically doubling down on this. They think this is the future, and they're chasing it as hard as they can, despite the fact that this year there was basically nothing for VR mentioned at all. But they're going down on this, so good luck to them. As far as a handful of other things I should mention, that Sony has embraced full censorship for the vast majority of their games. This is not a big issue in North America because we always get censored games anyways. This is a big issue in Japan because this is a Japanese, or was previously a Japanese console. It is not a Japanese console anymore. It is now an American console. And as such, American standards of censorship will now be applied to all of their games, even games that are exclusively sold in Japan. So this is something that a lot of Japanese have been really upset about because not every culture has the same standards when it comes to certain things, and it feels like they feel like they've just had their several things that are somewhat important to their culture kind of just get taken over and completely replaced by another standard. So this potentially means a greater loss of sales in Japan. We will see. We will definitely see. Like right now, we're looking at this, and this is an interesting thing to note, but it's not a guarantee about stuff going forward.
Okay.
So,
and what do we know about? And I see your questions in the or your there's a lot of conversation going on about Cyberpunk release date with respect to the PS4. We'll get to that in a sec. What do we know about the new Xbox?
So the new Xbox has been quiet. I suspect that they didn't want to, race to the microphone to give basically the same information that Sony just gave. It's like, hey, we're planning on unveiling this next year. They did kind of beat them to the punch at the E3 this past year. They did during their presentation. They did mention that they are working on the next console, and that to expect some information probably next year. So they more or less already announced it. Where they're going with it, I don't know, and I suspect that we'll start to hear some information next year as it starts to hit. I suspect fairly strongly that they will release after the PS5. I suspect that's probably a strong possibility at the moment. If I were to throw $5 on it, I would say that. If I were to throw $10 on it, I would not throw $10 on it because at this point it's purely a guessing game based on general assumptions, not based on any hard data. We do have hard data that says that Sony has ordered more physical components from certain factories than they have in previous years. So that's not a whole lot to go on aside from the fact that it just might mean that there's more. They buy these pieces and then they put them together at other locations. So they might be, they might order 10 million, plug pieces to put into their machines, or they might order 50 million of them, or et cetera, et cetera. Overall, we see that it's up. That could just be because they're expecting to sell more versions of this thing too. So, yeah. So as far as I do want to mention this. So Sony, thank you for bringing it to the attention, Notional. The process with the AMD, they're in such a way that Sony has basically pretty much bought out AMD completely as far as like what their orders and what they're going to be doing goes. So here's the thing with that. We're expecting this right now. Early trends, I want to stress this, early trending information shows that the PS5 will not sell as good as the PS4 did. That the popularity between the consoles was very much on the side of Sony this last generation. It was pretty much all Sony. There was a large chunk of Xbox players, console players moved over to the Sony because of all the mistakes that Microsoft did at the beginning of the cycle. But it's appearing as if some of those people are now pissed off with Sony, and they may be open to moving back to the other console. The console sales in general have slowed in their growth and gain overall than they were when the transition from 3 to 4 was going on. That's a fancy way of saying that less people, the more people are buying consoles today because there's more people buying gaming stuff today, but fewer of the new people that are getting into gaming are getting into gaming via consoles. it's still trending upwards. The sales are still going up, but there's a gradual comeback to the Xbox and also the Nintendo. Is like people are starting to lean that way. So Sony's not running the house, and they're not controlling the floor, so to speak, in the way that they did in this last generation. That's what the trending data shows. So potentially this could affect both PS5 and AMD should the PlayStation not sell as well as they're thinking that it will sell. So it's kind of all over the place. So I wanted to mention that it's still really early on, and don't take any of this stuff as super facts, because there's still so much more to this information. And HDK Gaming, you are 100%. The PC sales are up across the board. Like, they're up everywhere. The PC gaming has gone through the roof in Japan. In Japan, it is the number of console players has increased steadily over the last 3 years at a phenomenal rate. The amount of time that gamers are spending on console devices are dropping considerably. And this quite possibly has to do with some cultural stuff, some current manga stuff that can and really does affect the gaming culture in Japan. All of the recent top mangas of this last 3 years in Japan that have to do with gaming previously were about the console experience. They have all moved away from the console experience and have all gone PC, like computers, personal computers. And it has been prominently featured in several big animes that, you know, the PC gaming is the path of the future, and this has really affected sales in general because people are playing games that are available on PCs but not available on consoles. So this is really interesting. Like I said, this is all early stuff and a fair amount of speculation on my part, but this is what I do for a living outside of YouTube. So at the moment, I'm really just buttering this down to basics. At the moment, it appears as if sales in Asia for consoles are starting to slow and PCs starting to pick up. We're seeing this especially in China. China is huge, and there was another story to do with that, which I'm not going to mention. I don't want to get into that one today. So anyways, done on that. Okay. Let's move on to Fallout.
Just briefly, there was some discussion about how what this means for the Cyberpunk's 2077 release date, with it with this sort of release window that's been given for the PlayStation 4. Sorry, the PlayStation 5. Do you want to touch on that briefly about how those things line up? We've talked about it before, but we know it is not an exclusive. There's lots of people saying, "Oh, it's going to be exclusively released on PlayStation because Xbox sucks." That's not the case. In fact, PlayStation didn't even talk about Cyberpunk at all. They pulled it from what we heard. They decided to pull it at the last minute. No, the big announce was at the Xbox one.
Yes, because they're uncomfortable with the level of nudity in Cyberpunk 2077. That is what we heard. Total unconfirmed, I can't confirm this without doing things that I shouldn't do. So what we heard is that they have decided to not mass feature it because they're uncomfortable with the level of nudity that's found in that game and the previous games from CDPR, and that they're not going to not have it on their system, but they weren't happy enough to have it as a main show floor thing for E3 2018. So this is showing that there's a big change in culture at Sony. Like, this used to be a Japanese console. They used to have their headquarters in Japan. Now their headquarters are in the States. Now all of their important people are based out of the States. Now they're scaling back on pretty much all of anything to do with any adult rating on anything. They're removing a lot of games. They're no longer working with a lot of indie developers, and they're also starting to give indie developers who have previously made, or smaller developers, not necessarily indie. Some of these studios have been around for a real long time, making games for a very, very long time. But because they tend to make games of somewhat of an adultish kind of feel, they've started to play real hardball with them, and they've started to change rules on the fly, which has costed some of these companies a lot of money, and they've lost a lot of progress, and they've lost a lot of sales. So, there are several issues to do with that. So as far as the information going on, whether or not this has affected CDPR and Cyberpunk 2077, I don't think they're going to say no to it, but I don't think they're going to push it as much as Xbox is going to push it. I think, and we've already seen that because Xbox has already pushed this thing. This was their piece de resistance. Their magnificent final.
It's a literal showstopper.
Yes, it was the literal showstopper, and it went over really well. And from what we're hearing, Xbox is chumming up with CDPR. They are offering them a lot of money. They're offering them a lot of assistance. They're offering them a lot of stuff. So we will definitely see it. I still hold that I think this game will come out in 2019. I suspect quite strongly that it will release in the fall, and I suspect quite strongly that it will release on all of the consoles that are currently out, or, well, not all of them. That it will release on the PlayStation 4, it will release on the current Xbox. It will also be ready to release on the next-gen consoles nearly as soon as they come out. So if we get the PS5 a couple weeks after or during the same space, then they'll have a version for that as well. Which is good, because what I'm hearing is that this game does not run very well on the PlayStation 4 due to the fact that the PlayStation 4 is not nearly as powerful as the Xbox systems. So they have really, really gone to great lengths to optimize this game to make it run. It is definitely going to run 1,000 times better than, say, Fallout 76, because this thing has been optimized like crazy from the ground up at every step of production, at every step of the game's development. This engine has been optimized to run as good as it possibly can on any system, on any PC, on any console. It's going to run as smooth as it possibly can, and this has been their goal, and we've covered this before early on. So I suspect, again, Cyberpunk 2077 will come out in 2019. It most likely will be released for current consoles and the next consoles, because, like I said, why sell somebody something once when you can sell something the same thing twice? It's kind of the way that I mean, it's something that you do just because, I mean, you can. It's not a greedy move to say, hey, buy this for both consoles. I mean, people have done this for years. Nobody's ever made a complaint before. Backwards compatibility is a thing, but backwards compatibility usually comes in, is usually a bit of a gap, right? Like they can't actually like just instantaneously port all games. They could make a system that does that. They could create basically like creating a shell within the game, but that creates a whole bunch of other problems that we don't have time to go into right now. So suffice it to say, it's definitely part of their strategy. They're not going to abuse it, I don't think, like other companies have abused that process in the past. I think they'll just do it really simply and be straightforward about it. So that's what I'm hearing. We have heard a rumor that you do only need to buy it once, though. We have heard that rumor that you buy it once digitally, and then you're just be able to download it on either system, like on PS4 or PS5. So we have heard that as a rumor, but again, unsubstantiated at this point, so take that with a grain of salt. Do not jump on that process if you feel that if things are lining up that it's going to come out and you're going to go with the PlayStation 5, at launch day, and that's maybe a couple weeks or maybe a couple months down the road from when Cyberpunk is released on the PS4. And if you really, really want to wait, and if you can do that, then probably do that. You save yourself probably $80, potentially, maybe not. We'll see.
All right.
Long way of answering that question. Again, I do apologize. I tend to drone on when I'm not feeling the greatest. So I hope that answered the question, and I hope that should work well. Any chance that Obsidian will help CDPR? Sounds like a recipe for disaster. Quickly, we did talk about this last week. Ash wasn't here at the time. So Microsoft bought out CDPR. Sorry, Obsidian.
Whoa, yeah, there's a sound clip for you.
Microsoft bought out Obsidian, and Obsidian now has the funding to work on the games that they've been wanting to work on for a long time, which is good. There is a lot of complaints about some of the leadership at Obsidian, and I talked about this last week. And basically, it's like, if you know anybody that's gone through a real rough patch, like barely like worse than floating paycheck to paycheck. It's like every couple months they got to borrow some more money against their house, right? They got to take the money out of their children's college fund just to keep from going bankrupt. And they've been doing this for like 5, 6, 10 years, barely been able to survive, constantly, having crisis after crisis, and nearly calling it quits like several times. You're not going to see that person for the happy-go-lucky regular person that they are. You're going to see somebody who's frazzled. You're going to see somebody who's stressed. You're going to see somebody who's not in an okay headspace. You're going to see somebody who's truly at the end of their rope most of the time. Not at the end of the rope, but pretty close. That's what I think the leadership at Obsidian has unfortunately been in for the last couple of years. And they've lost a lot of good people. They've lost some of their core people at that company. I think now that they don't have to, I think that the leaders at Obsidian can finally go to sleep and have a sleep without worrying that they've had to, take out a mortgage on their home again to pay salaries for the month again. I think that we will finally see them start to clean up and make better games. I honestly think that's what's going on, because I've been in those situations and it's not fun. And Chris Avalon really blasted them on Twitter a while ago. Really blasted them on Twitter, but they had a really significant falling out, and it was really tough. I have high hopes for what Obsidian can do now, finally, because a lot of their core developers, a lot of the mainline people, they're the people that have been through this. They've finally been given a chance to really make this successful. I honestly think that they're going to take this and they're going to run with this, and we're going to see one of the best games ever come out of Obsidian in the next few years. I honestly think that. I think it's going to probably take a while. It's probably going to be about 2 to 3 years before we see their good title, their next big title. Unless this has been in the works a little bit longer, and Microsoft has been secretly giving them money under the table for the past like 2 or 3 years, we might see a launch title from them. That's a possibility. But from what I've been hearing at the studio and from the friends that I have that work there, I don't get your hopes up. I think we're going to see an amazing 2 year into the Xbox. We're going to see an amazing Obsidian title that is going to blow everybody away, and they're going to go, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And that's probably, like I said, launch for the Xbox probably a year or two out. So we're looking at 3 to 4 years potentially. So, but yes, I'm super excited about this. Obsidian can finally work on the games that they've been wanting to work on with a budget, and they don't have to go home and look at their bank account and squirm for the next month on whether or not they're going to be evicted from their house. Like, this has been a serious problem for a while now at that studio, and it does not make working conditions fun. But now finally people are going to be able to, just go in and work, and the amount of stress relief that has is pretty enormous. So anyways, Fallout 76. Again, we're going to have our official review come out on a different video at a different time, but right now we're just going to talk about mods for 76. Modding for 76 is here, and it is pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, there's already a few dozen mods up. Inventory improvements, visual and optimization improvements, things like that. So lots of quality of life stuff, but there's also some game helps, like there's a lock picking mod that helps you find that sweet spot of that lock when you're picking that lock. There's a dirty joke in there somewhere, but I'm gonna refrain from that. But yeah, so there's a lot of mods that are coming into play, but there's some concerns about this because with the constant updates that the game is doing, you know, how is that gonna mess with your mod system? Also, we were discussing earlier, Cyb, you know, if Bethesda implements, or if they have implemented some sort of anti-cheating system, could it...
How that'll affect mods.
Yeah, how is that going to affect...
So the danger of modding the game right now stands at a couple of things. So first of all, modding the game can create a copy of the game that the launcher may not necessarily like when it's updating, and may go, there is a critical error with this install of the game. We are now going to uninstall the game and re-download the entire game. Now, currently, with the patches they've been putting out and the size of those patches, that may not be a big deal at all, because I mean, the last patch was almost the size of the entire game from the download. And the downloading the game after the patch fresh versus patching the game was almost the exact same thing. So that's where it's like, well, you know, if they're going to continue to do that going forward, then, you know, every patch day, hell, uninstall it and completely reinstall it after the patch has been hit. That may be a viable choice, which is crazy, but that is problematic for sure if you have a limited budget on what you can download each month. So that's the first problem that can potentially, not been confirmed, but can potentially happen. Now, how most games, like how Steam games handle this, is they just verify the install and fix the files that have been altered. But this is not on Steam. This is on Bethesda's own launcher, and as we have already discovered, Bethesda has problems with their launcher. So that is causing some severe issues. The other thing that can potentially happen is in-game errors. So there's a couple mods that tweak your inventory and take more or less direct control over your inventory. And I have already had items in the game disappear on me. We had it last night where I was giving a weapon to somebody and it full on vanished from both of our inventories. Could not find it anywhere, couldn't find it on the ground. We essentially lost that item permanently. Now, it was a crafted item, so it wasn't, I mean, it took me like 10 seconds to create another one. The point of that is that when you're modding the already shaky game as it is, there's a strong issue, potential issue.
Things are going to go wrong.
That you may, due to a mod, you may lose something very, very valuable, to the point where if you can't get it back and you can't ask Bethesda for help because it's against the terms of service to mod the game, technically speaking, that they'll say, sorry, you modded the game, you're shit out of luck. We're not going to give you a replacement for that item. You'll either have to A, re-roll your character, or B, do without it. So, or hopefully maybe in a patch down the road you can get it again. But for the most part, I don't suspect that this will be too much of a problem, because most of the items in the game you can just get again. For example, I was doing a quest line yesterday, ran into a bug where the copy of the quest item I was given didn't properly update the quest thing. So what I did is I went back to the quest giver who gave me that quest item to begin with, dropped the quest item on the ground, talked to the quest giver again, and he immediately gave me a new copy, which worked. So in that regard, things are working slowly. So as far as like special weapons, though, I mean, you can get weapons again with the same stats, with the same bonuses, and some stuff that way. So there is ways to get, you know, good legendaries and whatnot going forward in the future. I got my favorite weapon last night. I'm so happy. Thanks to Fire and thanks to Fox, who helped me get it. I was so thankful for that. And that is I have the life leeching minigun.
Oh,
Effing awesome. effing awesome. I don't have it spec'd out yet. I need to craft I need to get some more components for it to make it exactly what I want it to be. But that item has been on my list for a really long time. It's like I need a minigun that does life leeching, because that would just be awesome. Because then I can just stand and grab the attention of everything and be able to tank it really, really well. So really excited for that. Think it's super awesome. Onto the other problem with this is that potentially you could be flagged as cheating by any cheat device that they anti-cheat device that they bring in the future. And what I mean by this is that an anti-cheating device is going to scan your system. It's going to see a change to a file, and it's going to flag you as potentially as a hacker or a cheater. And then you might either get kicked or banned for a time period or permanently. So this is the other problem with it. Now, there are some mods out there that are 100% cheating, as far as like, giving you access to things that you shouldn't. However, those, like, they're not the common. There's only like one or two of those out there right now. Obviously, an aimbot is not going to be good. Like, obviously, an aimbot is going to be problematic. And I think I was the victim of an aimbot yesterday. I was just standing around and I just kept getting like small damage done to me when I was low health from like nowhere. There was nobody around me. I was just standing there and I'm like, why is my health ticking down? Didn't have a dot, didn't have a thing. As soon as I healed up, it stopped. Like, because it was clear, like, if there was a cheater on our server who was targeting people with low health and just trying to pick them off with, an aimbot from half a mile away, then that's what you'd see in game, is like gradual health ticks down and not registering the hits. So again, it's like
I just have
maybe that's going on. Maybe that's what the issue is. Not 100%. But the thing is that if you're using an aimbot, or if you're using a UI improvement, the anti-cheating device that they bring in, that they upgrade, may just detect the same thing. It may think that there's no difference between the two. It's a foreign file structure within the file system, and that it needs to go. So that's a potential problem as well. However, that being said, oh my goodness, some of these mods are amazing. Like the fix for motion blur, the fix for the UI, better inventory, being able to look at an object and it just reading out what the components of each object are, instead of you having to guess or know off the top of your head. Like, all of this stuff is amazing. There's a lowered weapons animation, so that when you're running around, you don't have the gun pointed out at all times. You hold the gun close to your chest, as if you're talking to an NPC and you don't want to shoot them in the face, which has been it's very disconcerting when you're talking with somebody who's a much higher level than you are, because I'm level 70 right now, so I've been on the opposite end of this, where I'm looking at somebody and I'm talking to somebody and I'm trying to be nice with somebody, and they think I'm going to kill them. So because of that, it's not been great for communicating and trying to build reputation with these, or trying to build a rapport with these people, when you have a gun when you have a shotgun aimed at their face while you're talking to them. It's like, so this lowered weapons is really, really cool. There's a whole bunch of I&I tweaks that you can do that makes the game run smoother. All these plans, and I'll talk about this in the official review, but like, good lord, it would have been so nice for them to have invited the modding community in like a good 2 months ahead of release and said, help us get the game ready for launch. Like, if they knew it was going to be this buggy, and they know how fast the modding community can fix these problems, they could have avoided so many of these problems. It's just maddening to look at how many solutions the community has been able to create in a week.
Yeah, no kidding.
And that these things could have been implemented into the game as just options, and then be put out. That's part of the problem with the game. But overall, it's like,
Well, when I hear it's like these few I tweaks can make your game run more efficiently and run better, it's like, well, why is it set the way it is then?
yeah, and that's the thing. And the main reason for that is that it creates, if they were to do this, and this is where they run into problems. If they were to do this, they would run into substantial issues with the PC version of the game outperforming the Xbox version of the game.
Huh.
And that's the issue. That's the reason. That's why they're not doing it. Why? Because they have a deal with Xbox and says, hey, we know our console is a piece of shit or crap. Please, whatever you do, don't make the PC version run better than the version. And this is not just Bethesda. This is not them kowtowing to a corrupt company or anything like that. This is standard across every game. In fact, it's one of the reasons that Sony has to pay developers so much to keep their games on console only, on the PlayStation only, because there's a lot of games that if they were to port it to the PC, you'd realize how crappy the console is because it can't run the game properly. And when you realize that, I mean, how's that? That's going to affect your sales.
Yeah, no kidding.
It is. It's seriously going to affect the way that your game runs. So I don't want to harp on it, and please, I'm not insulting you if you play on consoles. I mean, there's lots of benefits to playing on console. It's a lot less money for starters. It's a lot more comfortable in other cases. I wish recently, like with how I've been physically, I really wish I could lay on a couch and play a game while laying on the couch, but I can't do that because I'm running a PC, and I can't move my PC to a location where my couch is. So again, I'm not insulting consoles gamers. I'm just pointing out a thing that's industry standard, and the industry standard is, we don't want you to make the PC version better than the console version. Now with Skyrim and Fallout 4, they were able to do that because of modding, and it's not Bethesda doing it, it's Bethesda passively allowing it to happen and giving us the tools to make it happen. My Skyrim game runs a whole hell of a lot better than it does on any console, and not to mention content. I've got almost 300 mods in my Skyrim game, and ever since I upgraded my graphics engine and my memory, I never get a crash. But my goodness, do I have a crap ton of mods on that, and that experience is far better than anything I can get on the console. So there is trade-offs, obviously, and the trade-off here is that a lot of these fixes, some of these fixes cannot be implemented on the Xbox, period. Some of the I&I tweaks and some of the graphical tweaks would need an official patch to put through to get it running properly on the Xbox system. And again, a lot of those things come down to, I mean, FOV and refresh rate were intentionally held back on the consoles because the consoles were not powerful enough to maintain what a good PC can do. So, in that regard, that's why we had these things being created in the first place. So, whatever. It can be, it's done in the way that it's done. So,
right.
So yeah. So that's the long and short of it. Is right now there is potentially the risk. There's a strong risk potentially of you running into some problems, whether it's an install, whether it's a cheating system, whether it's 100 issues can go wrong with modding the game right now. However, what we're hearing is that it can certainly help your gameplay experience. Certainly help it. There's one mod here that removes nameplates. So if you have a real hard time with looking at Joey Bag of Donuts 69 or your mother I'm trying
immersion
to
breaking
think of
names. Yeah.
Immersion breaking names.
Baby Bunny 1 2 3 4 5. Yeah.
yeah. I've ran into so many, like, why do people name their characters with like numbers like after them, like 1843? It's like 1843. Are you saying you were alive in 1843? Is 1843 an important year for you, or did you just pick 1843 because Darth Vader, your mom, was taken 1,840 some odd times before you? Like, seriously, why do that stuff? So some of that stuff is, of course, it's confusing to me, but I like role play games. So, anyways, a lot of this stuff can definitely improve the your gaming experience. We're definitely going to start. We're definitely covering mods in the future, but how, and we're kind of waiting on a word. Will we get banned, or will we get in trouble if we're using some of these quality of life improvements, not these improvements that change core aspect of the game? Like, can we get a confirmation on that? So we're hoping to hear back on that. We'll definitely start to cover the general usage of some of these mods, and yeah, it is looking pretty darn cool. So,
Well, then there's some I'd like to start using, but even the prospect of having to reinstall them every time the game patches or something like that, re-downloads itself, it's annoying to think about having to do that. So, KH Lions, whatever happened to playing 76 offline? Didn't they say that you were going to be able to? No, they did say you'd be able to play it on your own if you want, but it is an always online game.
I have found out how to play it by yourself, and that's just sit on a server until everybody logs off.
The servers do get emptier and emptier as you go
Yes,
through the
yes.
evening.
Now what happens is that during course of the day, the player population dips because this is not new. This happens for every single game in existence. At certain parts of the day, there's going to be, just using basic, real simple numbers. At one point in the day, there's going to be 1 million people playing your game. 6 hours later, that might drop to 500,000 people playing your game. That just has to do with population centers, time zones, and availability. So what happens in 76 is that if you sit on a server long enough, you will hit one of these points where you and a whole bunch of other people playing the game are playing on a server that is empty because there's not enough people to fill those servers. And so I have been in a number of servers where late at night, I'm like, oh, nobody's here. I can just do whatever I want. Now, the bad side of that is that means that the bulk of the server has already been picked clean for most of the high valuable spots of loot. However, that also means that loot refreshes and respawns are all yours. So this may or may not help you in that regard. As far as offline play, or what you might consider offline play, private servers are a thing. They are coming eventually. They're not coming. They might be coming sooner rather than later, from what we've been hearing as a potential to happen. So just kind of keep that in mind, that we may end up getting a private servers a little bit sooner because of the backlash that they're having at the moment. So if this is the case, then this is actually kind of a good thing, and you'll be able to play by yourself if you so choose, by setting a password on the server and not giving that password out to anybody else, or forgetting the password, whatever.
But then you can't get in. So
yeah. So this is, like I said, official review coming. I can say that I'm having fun. I'm really enjoying the game. There are definitely massive issues with the game. Every day I do encounter an issue that makes me, get a little annoyed and get a little upset, going, why did you do this, Bethesda? Why? Like, come on, please. But then I'm equally surprised when I loot something really cool or find a really cool place. As far as the story goes, I have said again and again and again and again, I want NPCs in my RPGs. I do not want to play through a game where there is no one alive. One of the main reasons why I stayed away from Metro and didn't play it more than just a sampling was that there was a significant lack of NPCs. I couldn't just go out and find survivors walking around and talk to them. I couldn't do that. It was a really lonely experience. Now they've added more NPCs to the next game in that series, and it's looking far more appealing than the previous game. And Fallout 76 is far less appealing to me because of the lack of NPCs. That said, I have encountered several stories for some NPCs that were really either touching or moving or made me feel something, or got me more immersed in the game. But again, it's like, at the end of the day, because they're all dead, that's really annoying. And I don't like that. I did encounter one quest recently where, for the first time, I was wrong. I said, I bet you at the end of this quest, the guy's going to be dead. I did this. I betted this like every time. I'm like, I bet you he's dead. And I was right. I bet you he's dead. And I was right. There's one time, though, I bet he's dead. And the answer was, no, he's alive somewhere. He's just inside a vault. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. Like maybe he's in 76 and he's one of the players. Well, I mean, well, maybe sort of. Like, that's cool. I'm happy. I'm glad. I really hope that one of the vaults opens up and it's not full of dead people. I really hope that, because that would be really cool. But we'll see. Anyways, I've harped enough on that, and we've gone a little over time. So, Ash, if you got anything else, feel free. But I'm pretty much.
Well, there's a couple of interesting questions in the chat right now.
Yes.
I don't know if we have time to get into them here, but okay. Well, Lamb of God asks, is Fallout 76 going to be another No Man's Sky? And as a related question, okay, just tackle that one first. In what regard?
I have to ask a counter question. In what regard? Because No Man's Sky, from everybody who's playing it currently, says it's amazing. And I've looked at it, and it looks 1,000 times better than it was. I am somewhat tempted to play the game again. However, every time I look at the install button on that, I immediately get flashbacks to how horrendous that launch was. And I start to feel that I may not want to.
Right. And with regard to some of the problems in the game, HTK Gaming asks, is this a result of us giving Bethesda a pass all these years? Their games have always been buggy, and their engine we all know isn't the best. Is this just what was bound to happen?
Now, two answers to that. Yes, that is a possibility, that we gave them too much slack and we rewarded them too much for things that were obviously fixable. Because again, the community can fix these things faster than Bethesda can make the game. So that's remarkable. However, it also showcases that they don't do as much testing, and they don't incorporate as much of the community into proofing their games as they potentially could, and there's issues for that, which I will address in our official video review of this. As far as their engine being crappy, yes, they should have upgraded the animation engine for Fallout 4. I do not know why they did not do that between their animation engine had almost no updates between Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. Fallout 76, sorry. So between Fallout 3 and Fallout 76, no major update to their animation engine was given. That is disgusting. Like, Bethesda, come on. That is disgusting. Now, it has been upgraded for the next game. For Starfield, it is a completely new animation engine, which means your movement, your jumping, all these things are not going to have that weird kind of feeling that they have right now. From what I'm hearing, it's really awesome. They're utilizing motion capture. They're utilizing a whole bunch of other stuff. They've made it so that you can edit emotions with it, or animations within their editor and client and creation tool that they're going to give to us. For that, this is all really cool. But yes, in the past, the engine has not been the greatest. However, this engine can be upgraded to rival any engine in the future. It just depends on how much effort you're putting into it. For example, and I use this a lot, the engine for The Witcher is the same engine that's being used for Cyberpunk, and the difference is immense. That can happen with the Bethesda tool if they devote enough time and resources and energy into updating that engine. Is it the best engine currently? No, no. Is it the best engine for the type of games that they're making? Actually, yes, because you have a real hard time replicating a Skyrim feel in any other engine. You can't. There are significant issues with the physics. There are significant issues with object placement. The reason why you can't pick up every pillow and cheese wheel in The Witcher or in God of War or in Horizon Zero Dawn is because what you're seeing is a painting. What you're seeing is not a physical interactive thing. The Skyrim engine, or the creation engine that Bethesda is using, is far more akin to Minecraft than it is akin to Unreal 4. It just is. And the closest thing that Unreal has gotten to anything that can compete on the same level as far as that interactability with the world is the engine that's currently running Fortnite. And dare I say, I don't think most people would want to play a Fortnite version of Skyrim. I mean, that could be cool, maybe, but there is limitations there as well. Like, there's a lot of limitations as to what the current Unreal Engine can do. So, is the engine to blame? Partially, yes. Partially, it has to do with the fact that they have been slow in updating and upgrading the engine and what it's capable of. Can the engine outperform or be improved to the point where it can give us an amazing experience for Elder Scrolls 6? Yes. Check the lighting, for example, as a roughly check the lighting from Skyrim to Fallout 76. The lighting in 76 is amazing, and it's pretty cool. It can be improved, definitely. Is it a little buggy? From time to time. Does it look amazing, and does it look amazing on consoles? Yes, yes, and yes. So, yes, the console is to blame a little bit, or sorry, the engine is to blame a little bit. The lack of updating it properly is also to blame a significant amount. Are they, and have they begun this process on their newer games? 100%. They have already started in that process. So please don't assume. There's a lot of people assuming that the next game is going to run on pretty much the exact same way that Fallout 76 will. I've heard a lot of people saying this is the exact same thing that we're going to see, just with a different skin for Starfield and for Elder Scrolls 6. That is not true. That is not true at all. The what we're starting to hear from them with regards to the state of the newer games says that it's heads and shoulders above Fallout 4. It's heads and shoulders above 76. Now, I'm going to talk about this a lot in the review, so please watch that when it comes out in the next few days. But 76 is vitally important to the process of making the engine better as well. So I'll just mention that now, and we'll get into that in the podcast.
All right,
I do want to answer. I'm quickly going to answer Droblit. The Diablo article and all things Diablo, considering with Kotaku right now, is for the most part a disgrace to journalism in general. But that's because they're defending something that is a disgrace to gaming in general. Diablo Mobile was a April Fool's joke in 2014 and is now a premier, in fact, the only premier release at BlizzCon 2018. Like, are you kidding me? You're kidding me, right? This is the reaction that people gave it, standing around looking at them saying, "Are you kidding? What? Why would you even think that this is acceptable to the community?" And then, as far as the defense of this, and you're just entitled gamers, is like I don't want, it's disgusting. It's disgusting, and I'm not this, and I don't say that lightly. I don't say anything lightly. To look at Kotaku and say you are kowtowing to some of the worst predatory behaviors in gaming that we have. I guarantee you this is going to come with a predatory loot box system, because that's what they've, unless they get enough blowback that they honestly believe that if they do that it's going to seriously ruin them or give them significant issue. But as it was planned, and as we've seen from some other leaks of information coming out of Blizzard, they were going to feature randomized loot boxes as the main source of microtransaction for the new Diablo game. And the fact that Kotaku, of all people, are defending this is hilarious and disgusting, because of the rate at which they call out other people for their misgivings or ineptitudes or issues that they have. It's disgusting. Any other questions?
None that I can see in the chat, and we probably should cap it there to wrap it up. But yeah, there is I just checked, and Droblet just posted in the chat, past, present, and future of Diablo. New article on Kotaku that it just came out, so no, we haven't had a chance to read that yet.
In that case, I haven't read that one today.
It's by Jason Schreier, and it's
in that case, I already know what it's going to say, because Jason Schreier is a really obvious person.
But anyway, we haven't had a chance to read that specifically. But anyway, there's Saib's thoughts in general on the state of Kotaku and Diablo and journalism and all kinds of everything surrounding that. I
do want to throw this out. They're making Diablo a family-friendly game. Hey, Jimmy. Yeah, Daddy. Are you done with that game? Oh, just a second. I'm just talking to Diablo, Lord of Destruction and Chaos, and I'm just making. There's a quest for me to make it so that he's not upset with the Lady of Lust and Perversion and Despair, and I'm just gonna do this quickly before I come for supper. Okay, Jimmy, that's all right with you. Oh, and if you see that silly little god of demon of anger and frustration, tell him I laughed at his little joke he gave me the other day. How ridiculous is this concept of making it a family-friendly game? What in the world? It's demons, for F's sakes. Like, what good? Anyways.
Hashtag Cyberrant. And with that, we will close out the podcast for today. But thank you so much, everybody, for your support of the show. Thanks for being so active in the live chat. Thanks for all of your questions. And if you want to keep the conversation going, join our Discord server. You can find the link to that in the description below. Thank you to everybody, again, for supporting this show, and thanks especially to our Patreon supporters, Old Man Manson, Jeranon, and our 2 anonymous supporters. Don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough. If you appreciate this content, and if you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud or iTunes, we appreciate you subscribing and reviewing the show. And hey, feel free to join us on Friday at noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time for the live show, where you can interact with us and other listeners and be a part of the discussion. And that goes live, typically Tuesdays and Fridays on the Triple S League YouTube channel. And the Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Asheninity. On behalf of Cyberpunk, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for sitting with us through this extra long podcast. I feel it kind of is good to make up a bit for the missing one last week. And it's been fantastic talking to you all. We will see you on Friday for the live podcast. And in the meantime, we've got other content coming as well. So take care, everybody. Have a great Wednesday. We will talk to you soon.